In this video, I'm going to introduce one of the debate on the sources of conflict. There are two schools of thought. One argue that it is the grievance that causes the conflict. The other group argue, no, it is the greed of the human, particularly greed of those people who are in the political leadership. Those who are categorized as the school of greed can emphasize the human nature. On the contrary, those who advocate for grievance theory, they argue that it is the structural condition that people place, such as oppressions or denial of their human needs, that causes conflict. By following the literature that relates to this debate, let us discuss on this issue. Please take a look at this diagram. As I mentioned, there are two schools of thought with regard to the source of conflict. One can be categorized as the greed theory, and the other is the grievance theory. As represented by the human needs theory, those who advocate for the grievance theory argues that if people's basic human needs, such as needs for identity, needs for recognitions, needs for belonging, and their needs for access, such as political participation and access to the economic resources, are the major causes of the conflict, particularly for those categorized as deep-rooted conflict or protracted conflict. Let's take a look at the current political situation in Myanmar, for example. There is a demonstration against the military regime. If you see the situation from the grievance theories, it is the grievance of the ordinary people who has been under the military regime for so long, whose rights to political participations and freedom of speech and other things are limited and are suppressed by military regimes. Also, their needs for access, such as political participation, access to the economic resources and decision makings, are limited. The people who are demonstrating on the street feel that they are frustrated. Their basic human needs are denied by the coup. That is why the people stood up and then conflict arises. On the other hand, greed theory focuses on the personal ambition or personal interest of the political elite or some groups who are agitating and mobilizing a people. If you try to explain the political dynamics in Myanmar, you can focus on the leaders in the military of the Myanmar. For example, General Min Aung Hlaing, who is the head of the Myanmar Armed Forces, together with the rest of the leadership in the Myanmar Armed Forces, have the personal or institutional ambitions to control the Myanmar. Those who are advocating for greed theory criticize those who are advocating for the grievance theory, saying that proponent of grievance theory focuses too much on the social gaps, discrimination, ethnic tensions, religious tensions, those cleavages in the society. The proponent of greed theory argues that under certain conditions, the leaders of the certain group will be able to mobilize and agitate people to have conflict so that they can pursue their ambition, such as economic gains. And normally, in order to pursue these personal or institutional goals, those people would exacerbate existing tension in the society, or they would try to exacerbate these existing social cleavages. I would argue that probably these two perspectives are mutually reinforcing. While without no underlying social conditions such as frustrated basic human needs of the majority of the people, it is very hard for a political elite to manipulate the feelings of people and lead these people to a violent behavior. In order for a political leader to manipulate the ordinary people, they need to have ethnic tensions, social cleavage in the first place. At the same time, the presence of frustrated basic human needs alone will not be a sufficient condition for the conflict to arise. These frustrated populations somehow be led, manipulated, or agitated in order for them to commit violent behavior. So to conclude, my argument is that grievance theory highlights the importance of structural conditions, while the greed theory can explain about triggering causes of the conflict.